Hey everyone, I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. As everyone knows, Pixar has taken audiences on many exciting adventures to a world where toys come to life inside the mind of a little girl, a world of living vehicles, a world of bugs, monsters, and dinosaurs, a far-off future in Wall-E, and amazing superhero adventures in the Incredibles films. We've had Paris in Ratatouille, the Pacific Ocean in the Finding Nemo films, Mexico in Coco, and Scotland in Brave. However, for today's movie, we're going to look into a film where Pixar took us on a high-flying adventure to South America. Released on May 29th, 2009, the movie is Up. Now let's get started. Carl Fredricksen, a 78-year-old balloon salesman, is about to fulfill a lifelong dream. Tying thousands of balloons to his house, he flies away to the South American wilderness. But Carl's worst nightmare comes true when he discovers a little boy named Russell who is a stowaway aboard the balloon-powered house. So, what do I think? Well, I'm one of many people who believe that Up is a really exciting adventure, and it's a fantastic movie. But to further explain why I enjoy the film, let's move on to Mustang notes. The movie was directed by Pixar's current CEO, Pete Docter, and co-directed by Bob Peterson, who also wrote the film's screenplay, as well as the story with Tom McCarthy, and the music was composed by Michael Giacchino. Docter began working on the story in 2004, which was based on fantasies on escaping from life when it becomes too irritating. He and 11 other Pixar artists spent 3 days in Venezuela gathering research and inspiration. The designs of the characters were caricaturized and stylized considerably, and, well, animators were challenged with creating realistic-looking cloth. Up was Pixar's first film to be presented in Disney Digital 3D. The film received 5 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture, making it the second animated film in history to receive such a nomination, following Disney's 1991 animated version of Beauty and the Beast. And what are my thoughts on the animation? Well, since this is a Pixar film, the animation, in my opinion, is absolutely spot on. To me, the scenery in Paradise Falls looks absolutely great, though it looks like it was taken from the second Jurassic Park movie. But the best part about the film are the flying scenes, especially that scene where the house is trying to fly through a fierce storm, and also the final climax where the house is trying to face against a bunch of aviator dogs. However, the beginning montage in the film is very emotional, like when we see Carl's wife Ellie not only losing her chance to have a baby, but also when she passes away. And now, let's move on to the characters and their voice actors. Our main character, Carl Fredricksen, is voiced by Ed Asner, whom I've talked about in my blog of the 2015 Nutcracker Suite movie. To me, Carl is a very relatable old man. When he was a boy and met Ellie, he seemed rather shy and quiet around her. But years after his marriage to Ellie and her death, Carl became lonely, cranky, and bitter. He seems to have a typical stubborn characteristics, which is very common for a man his age. But deep down, Carl is a kind person but he does have his limits in patience and temper. He found Russell, Doug, and Kevin to be kind of, annoying and, they're obstructions in his goal to fulfill Ellie's dream of moving their home to Paradise Falls. But after he read her last message to him, he did what was right and saved Russell and Kevin and accepted Doug as his dog. At the end of the movie, Carl vouched for Russell at his ceremony and gave the young scout a soda bottle cap that Ellie gave him the day they met. Having come to love Russell as the son or perhaps the grandson he never had. Next we have Russell, voiced by Jordan Nagai. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. And Up was his first film role. Throughout most of the movie, Russell makes several comments to Carl that his father and mother are no longer together. And in my opinion, Russell is a loud, hyperactive, anxious, high-strung, and curious, but fun-loving kid. His behavior and personality often annoys Carl, but on the other hand, Russell beholds a spirit that somewhat, reminds Carl of Ellie in Russell's curious nature and determination to do the right thing in helping Kevin. And of course, like I said earlier, both Carl and Russell bonded in a grandfather/grandson-like relationship. Next up is my favorite character, Doug, a golden retriever voiced by Bob Peterson, who serves as the film's co-director, and has previously voiced Roz in Monsters, Inc. and Mr. Ray in the Finding Nemo films. Doug is the misfit of Muntz's pack of dogs that can all communicate with humans through a device on each of their collars. Peterson knew that he would voice Doug when he wrote his line saying, "I have just met you, and I love you," which was based on what a child told him when he was a camp counselor in the 1980s. Doug is a playful, optimistic, friendly, and lovable dog who is always kind to those he loves. He also likes almost everybody that he comes across, and he's very good at following rules and can be somewhat of an airhead at times. Plus, Doug also gets easily distracted by some things, mainly squirrels, which kind of reminds me of the time when I played Jasper Oakley in Annie Get Your Gun back in 2014. Oh, and speaking of which, I'm going to be returning to that show from February 15th up until March 17th this year. Next we have a giant bird named Kevin, the Beast of Paradise Falls, whose vocals are provided by Pete Docter. She is the main target of Charles Muntz's hunt in South America. In my opinion, Kevin has a very strong personality, and like most animals, Kevin is friendly to those who have been friendly to her, but she will act very hostile when she's threatened, such as, her screeching at Carl when they first met, and when she, openly tried to attack Doug by pinning him down and screeching at him, and when her feathers rise in agitation. However, she can be very playful and affectionate, such as gently tossing Russell into the air and nuzzling him affectionately, or mimicking Carl when he tried to shoo her away. She's also very curious, as seen when she tried eating balloons and the balls on Carl's cane. And, of course, she likes to eat chocolate. Next up, we have Charles F. Muntz, voiced by the famous Christopher Plummer, who has been in films like The Man Who Invented Christmas, The Sound of Music, 9, Rockadoodle, and many more. Now, Muntz is a famous explorer admired by Carl and his late wife Ellie when they were children. In the movie, he found the bones of a tropical bird in South America, but the scientific community claimed that they were fake. Insulted, Muntz searches the South American wilderness for the live member of the same bird species. Traveling in a zeppelin with his many pet dogs, whom he equips with special collars that he invented that enables them to speak. The name of his airship, the Spirit of Adventure, may have been inspired by Charles Lindbergh's airplane, the Spirit of St. Louis. In various interviews, Pete Docter has mentioned Howard Hughes and real-life adventurers Charles Lindbergh and Percy Fawcett as inspirations for Muntz. However, it is rumored that Muntz was inspired by a real Disney villain named Charles Mintz. You know, the guy who took Oswald the Lucky Rabbit away from Walt Disney. Bob Peterson also voices Alpha, the Doberman Pinscher leader. Pete Docter has stated that Alpha thinks of himself as Clint Eastwood. Despite his menacing appearance, a frequent malfunction in Alpha's translator collar causes his voice to sound comically high-pitched and squeaky, as if he had been, breathing helium. The normal voice for his translator is a, resonant, intimidating bass. With both voices, Alpha has a roundabout speech pattern that causes his sentences to be longer than necessary. To me, aside from being menacing and proud, when his collar is malfunctioning, Alpha sounds a bit like Alvin from Alvin and the Chipmunks. But luckily, he isn't too bothered when he's being laughed at. The other dogs, Beta and Gamma, are voiced by Delroy Lindo and Jeremy Rampt, and other voices in the movie include Elizabeth Docter, David Kaye, and Pixar's Good Luck Charm, John Ratzenberger. And now, let's move on to my final words. Overall, Up is a fantastic movie. It has wonderful animation, fantastic characters, and a story that is both exciting, adventurous, and emotional. Plus, next to Ratatouille, this movie can be very mature at times. So, I give this movie a 97% out of 100. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to join me on Valentine's Day for my newest countdown video. Mustang Power.